description for the following discount codes.
I've had a little package of goodies sent over from MVH Studios. Now, you may have already heard of this company. It's a small operation where everything is handmade, and we're talking accessories for the Logitech series of steering wheels and wheelbases really, they're all in one. So we've got a couple of different steering wheels here, a GT steering wheel and an F1 style steering wheel. We've then got magnetic paddle shifter modification, a progressive brake spring for the pedal, and a little LCD dash as well. Now, let's get the boring bits out the way first, the least exciting stuff. The magnetic paddle shifter. This is just a 3D printed device with two magnets and a couple of bolts top and bottom, and you literally bolt it on behind your paddle shifters on your Logitech wheel, and this covers everything from I think it does a G27 right up to the G923, and obviously the console versions G29, etc. So all you do is you just clamp it on, and the magnets here hold your paddles much tighter and give you a much firmer and more tactile experience when paddle shifting. If anything, these are actually a little bit too strong, in my opinion. You really do have to pull on those paddle shifters to get them to release from the magnets. Now, the only thing I will say about this is the 3D printing isn't the best I've seen. If I was to give it like a score as far as 3D printing quality goes, I would say this is good, but not excellent. And in fact, it's just talking about, so here's another magnetic paddle shift. Is what I took off of my G920 when I was trying this out. This, I would say, has a slightly better finish to the 3D printing. I will call this perhaps excellent and this good. Now, the other difference here is, as you can see, the magnets on the MVH Studios one stick out quite a bit further than they do on this one, which is from Bike 3D, I think it is. I did a review a while back. Now, that's fine, but what it means is we actually get a little bit of flex in these bits that protrude. As you pull the paddle shifters, they do actually just flex a little bit toward you. So the disengagement isn't quite as crisp as it is with, say, this one that's got the three magnets much closer to the center and so doesn't flex. It doesn't really matter. They both work well enough, to be honest. And this is like, how much is this? £9? Yeah, £9. So, you know, we're not talking big money anyway, but that works okay. So that's that out of the way. The other thing we've got that isn't very interesting is just another progressive spring for the Logitech series of brake pedals. There's like loads of different springs you can buy for the Logitech brake pedal just to make it more progressive or firmer, or, you know, these sort of things have been around for nigh on 10 years. So it works just fine. If you're not happy with the standard spring and the way it feels, you could try this, you could try one of the many other ones out there. And this is the other thing, without having, you know, 10 of them to test back to back, how are you going to know which one you're going to like? So it's impossible for me to sort of recommend it, say, yep, this is a great spring, you should definitely get this one. It's just another, you know, progressive spring. You can see how the coil tightens up toward the end there. Whether you'll prefer it over the standard one or another aftermarket one is going to be entirely down to you. But again, not expensive, 12 quid should you want to grab one, whilst perhaps you're on the MVH Studios website getting a magnetic paddle shifter mod and perhaps a steering wheel or something, throw it in the basket. You know, it's not a lot of money to worry about. So that's those little bits out of the way. Now let's take a goosey at the stars of the show, which are these steering wheels. Now, this is a GT3 one. The finish is available in suede, leather, PVC, or PVC I think, or fake leather. So you've got quite a few options there. This is obviously the suede one, and the suede is decent. It's a nice feel to it. It doesn't feel cheap. Weirdly, one of the things I found with my Thrustmaster Sparco R15 wheel, which is actually a Sparco licensed wheel, was that the suede on it was very thin, and it actually moved. If you moved your hands like that, it actually moved a little bit around the wheel. Now, it might have been after a period of use that this occurred. I can't quite remember. But this is all certainly, you know, it's nicely. There's no like bulging or floppy bits. It fits really nicely to the wheel, to the grips, you know, themselves. Now again, this is mostly 3D printed, and again, I'll say the quality is good, but not excellent. The actual face here, this plate, is genuine carbon fibre though. And this, as a result, this is super stiff. I mean, that's not really a result of the carbon fibre, because the carbon fibre is just a thin layer at the front. But so it must be the 3D printing, in fact, that gives it its rigidity, because it is super stiff. And in use, in fact, I'll put up a video of me using this exact one. There was no flex whilst I was using it. No flex, no twist, no nothing. So it works really, really well. Now, other things as far as the quality of the build goes, these are all handmade. And, you know, when you look at it, you can tell they're handmade. Aside from the fact that it's primarily 3D printed. Things like where the bolts go through the suede at the back here, I'm going to guess the suede was applied first, and then perhaps a hole has just been cut or punched through the suede, and then the bolt put through, because you can see the odd little bit of suede just flapping sort of inside the hole. Doesn't make any difference to anything, but I'm just pointing it out because, you know, I like to be as thorough as I can be. Literally doesn't make any difference to it in use. And all these little, you know, the fact that it's primarily 3D printed, the fact that you've got these little bits. When I tell you the price, you're not going to care, because these are really nicely priced. And that is something I don't get to say very often in the world of sim racing. Things are just going up more and more and more. We'll take a quick look at the F1 wheel as well. This has got the leather grips on. Again, carbon fibre faceplate, and primarily 3D printed. But again, the finish is good. Nothing to really complain about, especially again when I tell you the price in a minute. The only thing I found with this one, and this is how it's just arrived to me, is that the Red Bull stickers on the top there are actually already peeling off. And they won't, you know, if I push them down, they won't stay back down. They do peel up again after a couple of seconds, as you can see there. And again, it's peeled up there. And on this side, we have a similar scenario. So I don't know whether it's just not particularly good stickers. The adhesive isn't great that they've used on there. But that's the only complaint I have, you know, that would actually be a complaint, because that's just going to peel off after a little while. Well, it already looks bad, so I would just, you know, take them off anyway and not worry about it. Excuse me. But again, same thing here with like the hole that's been punched through the leather, as opposed to it being a nice clean hole. You can just see where the hole has been made, because these are handmade, 3D printed, hand assembled. But the quality is good. I have no complaints for the price, and I'll tell you the price now. Let me just bring it up here. This F1 wheel, 53 notes. The GT3 wheel, 43 notes. And that was a bit, I was expecting in my head maybe £100 a wheel, something like that. 43 quid. And you know, and someone's had to take the time to sit there and hand assemble and perhaps even cut the, you know, the suede and glue it down there. I just think that's really good value. Now, the other things you can do with these, there's no buttons you'll see in these ones here, and that's because they kind of just push in. Here's a selection of buttons here, and there is some black ones somewhere else in another box. They're just plain black, look exactly the same. So you can put them obviously in there, but you do it once this is fitted to your Logitech steering wheel base. Also, and speaking of fitting, there's a proper how-to on their website, so I won't do another video showing you how to do it, but it's very, very simple. You literally just undo the 5 screws on the back of the Logitech button box assembly, and then you undo the 6 screws that would be around the center of the Logitech wheel, and it just comes off. There's one little plug that you unplug, and then you can just swap. You know, you can put the button box back together. You remove 2 of the buttons. I think they're like LSB and RSB, something like that. It's really obvious anyway, and there's a video showing, but you just pop them off, put it back together, and then all you do is get this or this, And where you're, in my case, it's the G920 I used, the Xbox button section slots through this hole, so you kind of slot it on like that, and then you just do your 6 screws up there. I may have made that sound more complicated than it is. Basically, undo all the screws you can see, screw them back together, put your wheel on. That's really all there is to it. It's very, very simple and takes maybe 10 minutes, something like that. At that point, if you actually wanted to switch from this to, you know, perhaps the F1 wheel, you have to just undo those 6 bolts there. So you could swap wheels, but it wouldn't be the easiest way of doing it. Some sort of quick release option might be nice if that was possible too. But that's the price, 53 and 43 quid. There's also customizable colours. So these pieces here can be swapped out for different coloured ones. They come with, well, mine at least came with 2 sets, your left and your right hand sides, obviously, respectively. And also these little caps here. I've got some more of those in different colours as well. So, and the same goes for the GT3 wheel. Actually, there's a selection of different coloured pieces in the bag there to replace the orange and the black you see there. So a little bit of customization available depending what you want to do with it. Now, at some point during my waffleage there, hopefully I'll put up some footage of me using those wheels and a little close-up of it fitted to the Logitech wheelbase itself. Just having my cup of tea. So the final thing we want to look at is this little LCD dash. Now, it has there's a USB bungee cord hanging out the back. That is just plugged in USB-C inside there. And this is not for data connection. This is just for power. The unit actually works over Wi-Fi, over your Wi-Fi network. So I'm just using a mobile phone charger and a USB extension cable to power this here. So, in fact, you just missed that, so I'm going to do it again. When you plug it in, you'll see your LEDs at the top there light up briefly, and then it should say starting up. Yeah, starting, and it's going to boot up. And mine is connected to Wi-Fi. It's connected to my Wi-Fi. It's got an IP address, and now it's sat there waiting for a telemetry stream from SimHub because I'm on PC. Whilst I'm talking, I'll just give you a little close-up of it. If you're on console, this does work with some games that have a native telemetry output, like the Codemasters F1 games, for example. But there are not many that support that on console. PC, we can use this with anything that supports SimHub and telemetry output, which is basically all of the Sims. Now, there is like a GoPro style mount attached to the back here, and they do mounts that allow you to mount this actually on your steering wheel or on your Logitech steering wheel base or on pretty much every other steering wheel base you can think of, Simucube, Fanatic, blah, blah, blah. What's funny is they actually forgot to include any of those mounts with the package they sent me over. So the reason I'm demonstrating this here in my hand is because I don't have any mounts to attach it to anything with. I'd done like the first part of the video, got it all set up on my steering wheel base, swapped the wheels over, had a little race, trying it all out. Then everything else, got to the part where I was going to install this and went, oh, I don't seem to have any mounts. So that's why we're doing it here at the desk. Now, there's a big drawback to this screen. So the positives are, it's a reasonable size. I don't actually know what size the screen is. I'm going to go with 4 or 5 inches, I would say. But it's clear and it's crisp and it's easy to read. Plenty bright enough, as are the LEDs, and the brightness can all be adjusted. The biggest drawback is it is a resistive touchscreen. Now, capacitive touchscreens are what you will find on your mobile phone these days, whereby just your skin sort of conducts a very tiny current of electricity. Resistive touchscreens measure pressure. Now, there is a cog in the top left-hand corner there that I'm going to attempt to press, and we'll see how many times I have to press it before it actually, there we go, registers an input. What was that, 4 presses, something like that? It's not even a good resistive touchscreen. So here you can see we've got 2 brightness sliders at the bottom, one for the LEDs, one for the display itself, and there's 3 preset display designs that you can choose from. And when you switch between them, you get a nice little flash at the top there. And until they're finished flashing, you can't actually switch back. And here we go again with the very poor, come on, resistive screen. So there we go. And now that's done, I have to now press the X again to come back out. Oh, I actually got it first time. This is now going to boot up again, reconnect to my Wi-Fi with the chosen display configuration and brightness settings that I've gone to use. Now, you don't need to touch this in use, really. There is a couple of things you can do, but as you can see, if you were racing, the last thing you need is to be able to touch that screen because it's just poo. So let's fire up Assetto Corsa Competizione and get some telemetry so you can see what it actually looks like in use. And you'll see what I mean. It looks, you know, really quite decent in use. Crisp, you know, crisp and clear and plenty bright. It's just useless from a touchscreen point of view. Now, I mean, it might be that I've just got a bad touchscreen, bad one. I don't know. But for the price of this, which is 100 quid, that needs to be a different screen. That's just not good enough, in my opinion. Right, single player. It's going to be interesting because I've got no sort of controller here at my desk and I'm going to have to hold this at the camera for you to see. So I'm going to be using keys. So you can see it's flashing, that's the green light that's just gone. You can see we've got the gear we're in the middle and times and speeds and tyre pressures and all the usual bits and bobs, fuel, position, your traction control, yeah, but all the usual stuff, brake balance, all the usual stuff you would expect. Now, get it into first. What is accelerate? That is accelerate, and that is steering. So you can see we've got a rev counter at the very top, and then the LEDs will flash like that when you're due to change gear as well. So the actual display itself works really quite nicely, and having all the different mounting options, although I haven't actually got them, but if you did, allow you to put it, you know, on the wheel, on the wheelbase, on different wheelbases, great. And also, I like the fact that it's Wi-Fi and that you only need to USB power it, because what you could do, rather than using a mobile phone charger like I've done there, is just get a tiny little rechargeable power bank, you know, a really small one, and perhaps even a smaller cable still, and just have that Velcro to the back if you wanted it on your steering wheel so it stays there, or have it just Velcroed onto your wheelbase and just plug it in that way, and you've got a proper wireless display. You set this up by using a mobile phone or a tablet or even a browser, because it has its own sort of Wi-Fi hotspot for configuration. So aside from the absolutely terrible resistive touchscreen, I do like this little LED display or LCD display. It just needs to be, you know, a much better screen. Let's just get out of ACC here before my graphics card fan ramps up and it sounds like we're in a wind tunnel. So yeah, I think that's probably covered everything. The magnetic paddle shifter mod works good enough, and it's only 9 quid. Spring, again, works good enough, only 12 quid. They're not particularly interesting. Stars of the show, definitely these wheels for 43 and 53 pound respectively. Those I really do like, you know, customizable colours and buttons and whatnot. And then this little dash has excellent potential. It just needs to be a capacitive touchscreen. I mean, it's got to be, really, these days. No one wants a resistive touchscreen, especially not if you want to actually interact with it whilst racing. But there'll be links to the MVH website in the description below. He has given me a discount code, which I believe is Carl Gosling 10, but I will write it in the description as well, just to be sure. But, you know, Mark, the chap from MVH Studio, said to me, Carl, you know, honest review as always, please, mate. If you like things, say you like them. If you don't, say you don't. And that is, of course, how my channel works anyway. So for some feedback, Mark, the only thing I would change about your little setup here is the screen you've chosen to use here. You know, I think for £100, you must be able to get a nicer screen. I mean, maybe you can't. I don't know the price of, you know, electronics these days. I don't know the price of screens. So maybe at that price point, you can't get a better screen. In which case, I would still rather have a better screen and just have to pay more money for it, because no one wants to have to monkey around punching their screen in the hope that every now and then it registers an input. But thanks for sending it all over, Mark. I appreciate it. And as always, everyone, thanks for watching and take it easy.